This is a condensed version of another video. To see the full original, click the link in the description below. I'm starting this channel where we're going to look at some of the deep questions, and maybe some half-baked ideas. And I thought it would be good to start out with one of the most profound questions. Why are there any questions at all? Especially from a Christian perspective. If God is so powerful, then surely He knows all the secrets of the universe. And if we are His people, then He can just tell us, right? There are different ways to articulate this objection, and while I think some of them may be frivolous, when formulated correctly, there is a logic to it, and I think we should take it seriously. Here is a strong way of phrasing the argument. The Bible is not from God. It is entirely the product of Bronze Age humans. If it were from God, He would have told them more about the way the universe operates. This would have been helpful to them, and it would prove that He was real. So, the lack of scientific content in the Bible is a clear indicator that it is not divinely inspired. This sounds pretty convincing, and maybe it is right, but in this video, I will give a couple of ideas why this might not be the case. First of all, does the Bible itself say anything about this topic? Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may follow all the words of this law. This verse has been interpreted in a number of ways, but I think that this is really what it's talking about. It talks about the things that are revealed to us as contrasted with the secret things. So, at least at a basic level, Christianity tells us that there is a difference between the things which God has made known to us through the Bible and the vast ocean of things which God fully knows, but are either completely out of our reach or are coming into view for us more and more with time and technology. And while this is not an explanation for why God doesn't explain more to us, we must at least acknowledge that the Bible is consistent with reality on this point. Another thing to consider is the cosmic drama. What do I mean by that? Well, the idea of the cosmic drama is that part of the purpose of the universe is that it is a grand arena where God sets the stage and the various people are free to make meaningful decisions, living through different time periods with different technologies and challenges, and discovering about the universe itself. This is not explicitly explained in the Bible, but there are several verses which talk about the rejoicing at the creation of the universe. But why were they rejoicing? I think that they were rejoicing because this amazing new thing had begun, and there was so much potential. Along with that comes excitement. Many people feel this kind of excitement at the beginning of a football season, or at the beginning of summer break, or with the release of a new video game. New beginnings are exciting, and especially because of possibilities. Assuming that this is the case, and part of the whole point is to see what will unfold, God explaining all of science and technology would undermine the whole purpose of creation. To better understand this, consider someone who has prepared an escape room or a murder mystery party. It would be no fun to tell the group what the compass is for, or to tell them to look behind the painting, or to just flat out tell them who the murderer is. Cosmic drama instills a kind of wonder in the universe. It's about enjoying it and enjoying discovering it. Proverbs 25:2. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings. In addition to spoiling the cosmic drama, it is possible that the ancient people just weren't ready for this technology, that it would have been effectively like giving dynamite to children. a dangerous and foolish thing to do. And this is not some unbelievable scenario. Thinking back to the argument from earlier, usually when we consider the argument and what kinds of scientific mysteries God ought to have explained, we are thinking about things like atoms and general relativity. Surely God knows about these things and they didn't, so he could just tell them and that's that, right? But it wouldn't do any good to tell them about those kinds of things because they are way beyond the ability of the people to verify. They would not even have a framework for understanding atoms or general relativity. So to qualify for the stated purpose, the revealed discovery would need to be something that was beyond their level, far enough beyond that they could be sure it wasn't the result of very learned humans, but not so advanced that it would be unverifiable. What would a discovery like that be? Something in metalworking? Even metalworking was quite advanced. When I see these programs about ancient technology, I'm usually blown away by how much the ancient people knew about metalworking, and you really gotta wonder how they figured it out. Most metal starts out as some colored rust-looking stuff, and it's in very low, unusable concentrations. Somehow, the Bronze Age people already knew this. But assuming God wanted to show them something to prove himself to them, what would he have shown them? Iron? I doubt they would have been too impressed. Now, I'm not saying there is nothing that could qualify, but when we acknowledge that most of our modern scientific discoveries would have been unintelligible to them, the situation is not so simple as we first imagined. Furthermore, when exactly was God supposed to have done it? At the beginning, when they were given the Torah, Moses had just led them out of slavery in Egypt. God used powerful miracles to set free the people, but also to serve as signs that he was indeed God. When Moses was writing the Torah, they were wandering in the desert. They had lots of problems, and they were doing a lot of complaining. But the question of God's existence was far from their minds. They knew for certain that he existed. He was even leading them around with a pillar of fire and feeding them with unearthly food. The Torah itself is a fairly short series of books, and Genesis chapter 1, which explains how the earth and animals and everything were created, is only a one-pager overviewing the most critical highlights. It would have been out of place to start delving into the finer points of particle physics or nuclear fusion. And their ideas of the world were so goofed up that a lot needed to be written to set them straight. They needed to be told not to kill each other and not to worship wood and stone carvings. They had a lot of issues, but lack of belief in gods was not one of them. Maybe God could have done this later in the Bible, but already by the time of the judges and kings, Israel was in complete rebellion against God, with only a few bright spots here and there. From then on, they are constantly getting reprimanded from God, and frankly, he might have thought that they didn't deserve some great revelation. And most of the rest of the Bible is like this. Harsh words for the people as a whole, with bits of encouragement and prophecy for the small remnant who remained faithful to God, those who had eyes to see and ears to hear. All of this is to say that the unusual circumstances surrounding the Bible's writing may have hindered the kind of scientific revelations we imagine in the argument. But with that said, if things had been different and God's people had stayed true to him, perhaps he would have rewarded them with some secret knowledge. Who knows? We covered a lot of ideas. None of these are proven, and they don't even touch on the question of whether or not God exists. But regarding the original question, why are there any questions at all, they seem quite relevant. These considerations temper my enthusiasm for the argument against God's existence. an argument which otherwise seems quite potent. Surely some of you will not be impressed for whatever reason, and maybe I did make some blunders in my reasoning. But this is what I think about this topic, and I am committed to follow the evidence where I believe it leads, and so should you. I hope that in all of my videos, you can find something of value, and even if I'm off base, you can at least learn how some people think about these topics. One last verse. Matthew 13:52 says, "Therefore, every teacher of the law who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old." As I begin this channel, I hope that this verse serves as a foundational statement and that we can bring light to some old ideas as well as some new ones.